It's Talk Funny, a podcast by Mark Bailey and other comics from all over. We ended up in Japan because we wanted to be asked if water is delicious, over and over again. The Talk Funny podcast from NagoyaRadio.com and Nagoya Comedy. Here's Mark Bailey.
Mark Bailey and Mike Miller's back here on Talk Funny. Hi, Mike.
Hi, it's good to be back.
I think I did the disclaimer before about the bar hostesses, and they hadn't worked for 2 years. They're just friends of mine. I never go to the hostess bars. I disagree with it. We've been through it before. I disagree with the whole...
views expressed on this podcast do not necessarily represent those.
I disagree with, paying to talk to girls and stuff like that. Anyway, they're friends. They all live in the building. They haven't worked for 2 years, and they're not able to even go out to parties or anything because they're all working at the factory. Is that
a euphemism?
I mean, all of them.
The factory?
No, they're all working
at the factory.
We
know what you mean now.
Factory, which comes from the Latin word factos, which is not as rude as it sounds, but means hands.
Yeah.
So they all work at the factory because they haven't worked for 2 years at the hostess bars, and still now they don't have a lot of customers. So they're all complaining to me every day. I think we've been through this before, maybe on a podcast. It's not in the ether, but they'll come to me and they'll say, so I have to get up at 4:30 or 5 a.m. and I have to catch a bus and have to go to like Shinanjo or Toyohashi to do a pachinko part factory. And I have to work there for 8 hours. And we only get 30 minutes for lunch. And we get 1,000 yen an hour or something ridiculous. They say 1,000, maybe it's 1,200, yeah. And it's really hard work. You don't understand, Mike. It's really hard work. I'm like, yeah. I mean, everybody's dad in North America and everybody's grandfather did that work. Mm-hmm. He did it for 50 years. They weren't allowed to complain about it. No, but it's really hard work. I wish I could do something else. Well, you can't, because what you didn't do is go to college or even a trade school. Mm-hmm. It's like your skill is not attractive when you're 60 or 50. And, some of you pushing 30 and 40, and your voice talks like this.
Yeah, it's good to
Hi, it's Brenda Vaccaro for Tempex. This episode not brought to you by Tempex. Brenda Vaccaro talks like this because she smoked cigarettes every day. And they're like, no, but I don't smoke. Yeah, but you sit in a club where they smoke like this all the time. You sound like Gilbert Gottfried. For Christ's sake.
I don't even know who you're talking about. But
Brenda Vaccaro.
Brenda Vaccaro?
All right.
She was on ads for Tempex.
She was on the original Bob Newhart show.
Oh, I know who you're talking about. Yeah.
When she started, she was an actress, and she talked like this. But she smoked a lot. Now she talks like this, but now she doesn't talk because cigarettes. She's gone.
She's talking from beyond the grave, and she's saying, "Stop smoking, guys."
Cagney and Lacey, you know them.
Yeah.
They also talk like this.
Yeah.
Praise, MFer. Don't turn around. Okay, sir. Don't call me sir.
Cagney and Lacey, that's a deep cut. That's old, man. That's from the 80s. Oh,
so
God, Cagney
the funny thing is, so they're always complaining about the factory, and I said, they're like, why don't you work at a factory? And I said, that's why my parents made me get a college, university education,
right,
and eventually 2 masters. Mm-hmm. So I can own the factory. I don't have to work at the factory, which it's... Talking to them is like a Bruce Springsteen song. And I'm working at the factory. That's not Bruce Springsteen's voice. That's the Brenda Vaccaro bar hostess voice. And there's actually a song called The Factory. Working at the factory. I get up at 6, and tomorrow I come back to the factory. Bruce Springsteen said in Variety recently, he divulged that he had depression. I'm like, yeah. No Sherlock. No You ever heard your songs? Did you ever replay your songs? And I did this on stage. It's like, we went down to the river. Down to the river we went, and we killed our newborn baby at the river. Why are you depressed, Bruce? And we're still working at the factory. My dad died at 40 at the factory. He was a chain smoker, and he died of lung cancer. But I'm the boss. Listen to that in the morning.
Oh, my God.
You're going to stand in front of a train. Anyway, so it's funny because these girls, they always had the looks, and they had the cleavage and the nice butts. And they thought, guys, you guys are schmucks for working at the factory. I said, if you had worked at the factory since you were 25, you'd be a foreman for a woman by now. Mm-hmm. Right? You'd be a manager. You'd be making more than $10, $12 an hour. Mm-hmm. But no, you thought like your looks, you could last forever. Mm-hmm. And your sweet voice, say. Joke's on you. I guess God does have a sense of humor. And guess what? I guess God's not a woman. Mike Miller at yahoo.com.
Oh, God. I think it's to be fair to these women is I think also that a lot of people in these jobs, they don't exactly come from, let's say, the richest households, and probably in their family there's no one that has been to university, and they just don't think about it. They're like, oh, I guess I'll make a living this way, right?
So let's crap on some other celebrities.
Excellent.
Adam Carolla, you're a big fan.
I'm a huge fan of Adam Carolla.
My only problem is his staff doesn't let him talk enough.
I think so. And you know what? They really disagree with him too much, I think, as well. I think they should stop talking back to Adam when he has some kind of retrograde opinion. I think they should really stop that. Just let the man talk.
They're way too much in his face. The 32 seconds that collectively the other three staff argue with him is just too long. 32 seconds is a little too long. I want to hear more about the 401.
The 401 and click it or ticket. That's it. Click it or ticket.
I want to hear more about his musician father that never loved him.
Yeah.
I want to hear more about his negligent mother. So, Adam, you made it. Shut up. Now entertain us.
Entertain us. Are you not entertained?
And, he'll do this. When I listen to his podcast, I can smell his phlegm. That's how much he talks. I can just imagine. He must need, in podcasting we have on the microphones, we have these spit guards. He should wear a spit guard, actually. And then he does the live shows.
Yeah.
People are sitting there, doing his bit, and they brought me Sprite. Don't get me started on Sprite. Yeah, please don't get started on Sprite. I mean, why is it Sprite?
Yeah.
Why is it called Sprite? It doesn't sound like lemon or lime. And don't get me started on Peruvians.
Yeah.
And lemon and lime.
No, it's lemon. What is the one? The iced tea, passion fruit iced tea. He's always on about the passion fruit iced tea. Oh, God. And what is it? Why do they play the music so loud in restaurants? What's going on with the music?
What about his announcer, his MC?
Mm-hmm.
Razor blade throat? The guy who... Do you think he smokes pot, that guy?
Maybe.
Now, welcome your host, Adam Carolla. He kept that guy on for 15 years.
Yeah.
He's still on. I can't stand his voice. It's like razor blades.
Yeah, he's kind of got a rough voice. He's in a band, though, isn't he?
Probably.
What's his name again?
Bald
Shadow Stevens? It's something.
Bald Brian has a better voice.
Yeah, Bald Brian has a great voice.
He should do the MC.
I guess it's just, I used to be a regular listener, a religious listener, just like Joe Rogan. I used to listen to Joe Rogan all the time. And then you just start picking these guests, and you're just like, speaking of someone else in the Rogan sphere, you wanted to bring up another comedian who's in the Rogan sphere.
Bert Kreischer, who's on Rogan all the time. And Bert Kreischer can make Joe Rogan laugh, so Joe Rogan thinks he's funny. Mm-hmm. And Bert Kreischer happens to be a comedian, so I've heard. I just don't find him funny. But Joe Rogan has Bert Kreischer and Diaz.
Joey Diaz.
Joey Diaz.
Coco Diaz.
I saw him live in New York. I didn't...
Dog.
Hey, dog. Hey, doing cocaine. I'll snip it up your butt. Hey.
The brownies backstage, dog.
So I'm still waiting for a joke, So Bert Kreischer is famous for his machine story where apparently he went to Russia and spoke Russian. He met the Russian mob, and they said, "Tonight you party with us. We are Russian mob, yes." So he was talking to Bill Maher, and I told you before, that was a recent interview. I told you a couple of years ago that Bert Kreischer's making up stories.
Yeah.
And he embellishes them. He probably did go to Russia.
Oh, I'm sure he did.
He met some guys.
I'm sure he drank with Russian gangsters, but I mean...
They're not going to tell you they're gangsters.
No, they're not going to tell you they're gangsters.
Because you look like CIA.
Yeah.
Right? Why would you tell a foreigner that?
This was in the late 80s, right? Was that before... He went after Perestroika, right? I think he was
probably
after
the 90s, yeah.
90s when everything was gangsters everywhere, right?
Yeah, I think that's it. Also, he said they were amazed at how much I could drink. I don't believe that. I met Russians.
In Russia? No.
Russians can out-drink
anybody.
Betty Ford.
Okay. Oh, yeah.
Especially now.
And then pop pills.
I had a Russian friend, and we had a whole bottle of vodka. And I said, "We're going to drink this whole bottle." And she goes, "That's mine. Here's yours."
I want to see, can we have a World Series of drinking? Because I would like to see Russia versus Korea.
I think
because Koreans drink a lot too.
Chinese businessmen also are very good
they
at
drink
it.
the baijiu, that horrible baijiu stuff.
Yeah.
Oh my god! If anyone's tried that, it's syrup. It's like a syrup.
Well, the Cherokee Nation they're already out. 12 seconds in, already red face. So Bert Kreischer, he accidentally admitted, and I told you this 2 years ago, he's making stories up, and he makes up the endings. He had a story where it's not bungee.
It's zip line.
Zip line.
Doing a zip line.
He said he's doing the zip line with his 4 and 6-year-old daughters, and in front of his wife, he's saying, like, you effing C word, go faster. And I said, no, you did not say that in front of your wife. You're still married. No, you didn't. No, you didn't. And then he has a story. He does it for, shock effect. No, that didn't happen. And his wife's in on it. He had a story where the wife came home an hour early than he thought, and he's smoking pot, and he's not supposed to smoke pot, so he told the two young girls, do a whore wash. What's a whore wash? Armpits and between your legs, and go to bed. The whore wash. And he goes, then my wife goes, really?
Father of the year.
You said whore wash to them? He didn't. No, he did not. I think he's probably a good father.
At the whore wash.
Listen, he can lose his house, he can lose his career. I think he's a good father. I think he made all that crap up. I think he's a decent father.
Yeah, he seems like a decent guy, but he embellishes. But I guess that's what people, and that's what you do in comedy, right? But you don't. The thing is, when people pass it off as if it really happened, and they don't say, "Yeah, it's a story,"
Well, like the Goofy story. I mean, the only stories worth telling are true stories.
Yes.
Otherwise, you're just doing fiction. You make it up.
Well, and truth is usually stranger than fiction, anyways.
It's like when they talked about. Remember the scandal, Game of Thrones, where somebody saw a Dr. Pepper.
Oh, yeah.
Can
something like that.
On a desk, and they said, that's not realistic. What else is not realistic? A fire-breathing dragon owned by a little girl. It's a fantasy. You fantasy.
Is this ASMR? Are you doing ASMR here?
You fantasy fans.
This is the ASMR program, part of our program.
So Bert Kreischer accidentally admitted that he embellished
the machine story.
And he still embellishes it, the machine story. So he said on Maher's show, I said at the end, which was, and tonight you party with us. And he said, I didn't get a laugh. So I realized that's not the end of the story. And Bill Maher said, what's the real end of the story? He goes, well, I just decided to add some other things. And then we partied for a week, and the FBI came looking for me, and CIA. And he goes, but did that happen? Well, yeah, I mean, in my act it happened. It's like, okay, so it's not a real story. You lied on your CV before, and now you give me a new CV.
Oh, so Bill Maher called him out on his lies. Yeah. Wow.
He also called him out on this other thing. I realized Bert Kreischer's full of crap. Bert Kreischer said, yeah, my great-uncle was at Normandy Beach, and I got his diary. And the diary said, well, I guess tomorrow we go to the beach. That's what the commander said. And Bill Maher said, it doesn't sound right. They had training. They were training for this for a year and a half. They were training in the UK for a year and a half.
And they weren't told where they were going until the last minute.
They didn't even know it was a beach, but you could assume because you've got amphibious assault. They say when you assault the beach. They don't know what beach.
They don't know what beach. They don't know what day. They don't know when. Yeah.
Normandy Beach was divided up.
It was up ultra top secret.
There was Omaha,
Utah.
Canadians had one.
Yeah, Omaha, Utah. What was the Canadian beach? I should know that. They're going to take away my Canadian passport. I can't remember which one it was. Juno Beach. Juno Beach was the Canadian beach. Right. Yeah.
But everybody knew. Germans knew they were coming.
They knew they were coming at some point.
They didn't know which
that's why they fortified the whole coast, right?
So I guess we're going to the beach tomorrow. And then Bill Maher goes, that doesn't sound right. I'm sorry. He goes, no, that's what it said. And he goes, what did it exactly say? He goes, we're going to the beach tomorrow. He goes, so like he is expected to be in shorts and sandals? I don't think so. He was in the Marines, right?
Yeah, Bill Maher is exactly the wrong place to tell stories like that because Bill Maher tries to be. I'll say this for him: he tries to be factual. Like it's a half news program, so it's not like a podcast where you just show up and you could tell any kind of story that you did something that happened to you, right? It's an actual kind of semi-news program. So you don't do that to Bill Maher. So that must have been really embarrassing for Bird. He must have really.
Then he had to back out of it. That's why this guy's full of crap. So Kreischer, he goes, I mean, he knew he was going to fight at the beach. And he goes, but that's not what you just said. You made it sound frivolous. He goes, yeah, I wasn't trying to make it sound frivolous. He goes, that's exactly what it sounded like. It's frivolous.
Wow.
He goes, I wasn't trying to make it sound like a joke or anything.
Jesus.
He goes, because the joke didn't work.
Oh.
Right? Bill Maher, to his credit, he's a huge historian maven. He's an expert on history. He's very good at it.
He's a well-read guy. I don't.
Well, you can't pull that over on him.
No. I mean, that's a dumb thing to say. I mean, it's just dumb.
But Bert Kreischer's made a career out of it. And that's what I don't like about his career. Tell me 2 Bert Kreischer jokes.
Yeah.
Not stories.
Good question.
Nothing about the machine. Tell me the jokes. What are the jokes?
Yeah.
Wife and onions? No, that's mine.
I haven't watched a lot of Bert Kreischer, to be honest with you. I'm mainly seen him on podcasts. So
he's a frat bro with Rogan. He's on Rogan's shoulders.
Yeah, Rogan has a kind of group, like entourage, right? It's like Kreischer and Joey Diaz. Although Joey Diaz is now in New Jersey, I think.
Probably.
So he's not on the podcast very often. But then there's what's his name? Kind of interesting guy. This Can't Be Happening. Who was the host of that? Was Ari Shaffir. Ari Shaffir. And then there's a couple guys.
There's Christina P's husband. Well, Christina P, she's a comic, but her husband hangs out with Bert Kreischer all the time. Mm-hmm. Hang on a sec. Hey Siri. Christina P's husband. He's on Rogan all the time.
What's your husband's name?
Hey Siri.
I didn't get that.
This is not a bit, people. This is live.
Segura?
Tom Segura. Tom Segura, yeah. Tom Segura and that seems like a good comedian. Yeah, he seems legit.
He's okay. But he's not great. He gets lifted on the shoulders by Rogan.
Yes.
But he's better than Kreischer. He actually has jokes. Those guys, and then they're all riding on Joe Rogan's shoulders, and Joe doesn't really do much comedy anymore.
No.
Joe's become Johnny Carson.
Basically, yeah.
I mean, Steve Colbert is not the new... Well, that's the new Letterman, but Steve Colbert. Jimmy Fallon is not the new Johnny Carson.
It's a dying. To be fair, I think the late night genre is dying. It's like kind of over, right? Like, because there's Jimmy Fallon. Jimmy Fallon is like party games with Jimmy Fallon.
I still feel like I'm watching SNL when I watch Tonight Show with Jimmy Fallon.
Yeah, kind of. And then
Jimmy Kimmel, I feel like I'm watching a man show.
Yeah, Jimmy Kimmel's kind of like that. And then there's Colbert. And Colbert is just not, like, he was great when he was doing that character. He was really good. He was hilarious. And I get it, he didn't want to do the character anymore. But his new show is just like, and it's just, he doesn't, when Trump, he bleeps out the name. And it's just so, it's so lame sometimes. I don't know. But he seems, he's a well-read guy. He's got some good writers. So now that we know, all of the shows Talk Funny is not going to be appearing on in the near future.
We're definitely not going to be on Gottfried's podcast.
No, I don't think so.
Though he wanted us on there.
He really wanted.
After he heard one podcast, he said, "Get them on now, as soon as possible." The thing is, the original Tonight Show was Bert Parr.
Oh.
I don't know if you know who that is. He was almost like a Lenny Bruce, but he wasn't profane and he wasn't that funny, but he was very studious, kind of like Dick Cavett.
Oh yeah, Dick Cavett's
really studious. He was really intense. And he would have, this is a Tonight Show, this is the original one. He'd have people talking about hydronuclear technology. He'd have people talking about the problems with building airplanes. And, it's just a serious audience. They didn't have an accordion player on. They didn't have Lenny Bruce on. They didn't have Mamas and Papas on or something. It was very intense, very intellectual, right? And Joe Rogan is kind of close to that. It's very intense sometimes. He'll get into neurology.
Depending on
science.
The host. It all depends on the host he has. The guest.
Except for bear videos. But, he gets distracted by bear videos.
And then that's
mushrooms.
wild. It's so wild.
But he'll talk about mushrooms, in a scientific sense.
Yeah.
And he'll talk about space. Wow. But he's the closest thing we have to Bert Parr, the original Tonight Show, because Johnny Carson just went for the laugh. Johnny Carson was the original David Letterman. Johnny Carson just went for the Midwestern laugh. But Joe Rogan's really into this stuff, and people aren't used to an intellectual. Or Roseanne Barr gets fired, he's got her on. What happened? What happened? We want to hear it, right? He'd have Hillary on if she'd come. Just what happened? It's like 60% news and 40%.
Well, and this is the reason why people complain about Joe Rogan all the time, is because when he has certain guests on, he doesn't push back a lot. Some people don't have the context to know that person's lying, and they're just like, "Oh, really? I didn't know that." Like when he has the CIA guy on, Mike Baker there.
Mike Baker.
And you're like, "Come on, really?"
But he breaks news. That used to happen on Ted Koppel. Usually Ted Koppel would break news. He broke news with Mark Zuckerberg. He made Mark Zuckerberg feel so comfortable. Mark Zuckerberg said, actually, the FBI told us to do this.
Yeah, he did. He did a good job on that one. But Zuckerberg, oh my God, there's another guy. Half man, half machine.
But Joe Rogan, if people are like podcaster, he's Ted Koppel plus the Tonight Show together.
Well,
he's a huge force.
Well, has the viewership of like he has the viewership that you used to have for a Ted Koppel back in the days when there were only 3 networks, right? And you had to watch ABC, CBS, or NBC.
Remember the guy, country singer from I think West Virginia? His last name was Wheeler. He went on Saturday Night Live. He sold 235 albums.
Oh yeah, you told me about that one, and then he went on.
He came on a Rogan. He sold like 10 million downloads.
Yeah.
And it's like, he told Rogan, he goes, you're the new SNL, man. You're the new Carson.
Yeah.
And Joe Rogan said, no, man, I'm just a dumb meathead, smoking drugs and eating mushrooms.
Yeah, he's like, I didn't ask for this. Yeah, he didn't ask for it. He just wanted to have fun, but it's turned into a multi-million-dollar. What was it, $100 million with Spotify?
He's worth $150 million.
And that's why he's so out of touch with reality now. Like, he doesn't know what's going on. Like, it's like Chappelle, too. Like, same thing. Got really big, really, really rich, and now he's just kind of a little out of touch,
But you still trust him. He doesn't have an agenda.
Yeah, generally. He doesn't have an agenda. The only thing is, I think people try to use Joe Rogan as part of their agenda. That's the problem, is that he's often used by people to promote certain agendas. Yeah.
I've seen 7 interviews with ex-CIA agents. There's no such thing as ex-mafia. There's no such thing as ex-CIA.
But nobody's perfect.
Nobody's perfect. And Mark Bailey, Mike Miller on Talk Funny.